My partner wants me to cut off the friend who introduced us, and I'm really lost. My girlfriend Eva, 25F, and I, 27M, who've been together for almost 6 wonderful years, recently had a heart-to-heart about taking the next big step, getting engaged. During our chat, Eva surprised me by mentioning her expectation that if I were to propose, I should also cut ties with Lee, 27F, one of my dearest friends and the very person who brought us together. Just to clarify, the names are fictional. Let me give you a bit of background on Lee and me. We've known each other since our middle school and high school days. Over the years, our friendship grew stronger, and by the time we graduated, we were practically inseparable. Even though we ended up attending different colleges, we managed to keep our bond alive, even if our meetings became less frequent due to our busy lives. A few years down the line, Lee was so convinced that I and Eva would hit it off that she insisted on introducing us. Being the social butterfly she is, Lee organized a casual get-together and, in her usual style, played the role of a wingman for both Eva and me. Despite our introverted nature, Lee's enthusiasm and knack for bringing people together made the evening memorable. After making the introduction, she graciously stepped back, letting Eva and me get to know each other better. As Lee had predicted, she was spot on about Eva. I really liked her from the moment we met. We quickly discovered shared interests, hobbies, and a similar sense of humor, which made our connection immediate. It was one of those rare instances where everything just fell into place from the very beginning. Lee, being the supportive friend she is, wanted to make sure I didn't miss out on a good thing. So she took the initiative to arrange our first official date not long after our initial meeting. To my own surprise, I managed to keep my nerves in check and didn't mess it up. It wasn't long before Eva and I became an official couple, deeply in love with each other. After I landed a job, Eva and I took the next natural step in our relationship and decided to move in together. Living together solidified our bond even further, and it seemed inevitable that we would continue to build our future together. We often talked about our dreams of getting engaged, eventually tying the knot, and all the wonderful adventures we would embark on as a married couple. Eva's sudden request took me by surprise because she had never expressed any concerns about my close friendship with Lee before. From what I could see, Eva considered Lee to be a friend as well. Throughout our relationship, most of the times I spent with Lee in person also included Eva. We often hung out together, whether it was a casual get-together or a more planned outing. While it's true that I share a deeper bond with Lee due to our long-standing friendship, it's not like Eva and Lee are total strangers when I'm not around. They have also met and spent time together without me, forming their own connection and understanding. To clarify further, Eva and Lee have had their own one-on-one interactions outside of our group gatherings. While I might be closer to Lee in terms of the length and depth of our friendship, Eva and Lee have had opportunities to get to know each other and build their own rapport. One of the main concerns Eva brought up was the fact that I had a crush on Lee in the past. To give you some context, this once happened when I was just 15 years old and had recently become friends with Lee. It was a fleeting teenage crush, and it happened long before Eva and I even met. I was upfront with Eva about this early on in our relationship. Within our first month of dating, she asked me if there had ever been anything romantic between Lee and me. I didn't hesitate to tell her the truth. I admitted that there was a one-sided crush on my part at the very beginning of our friendship with Lee, but I also made it clear that those feelings were in the past and nothing ever came of it. Eva seemed to understand and accept this information without any issues at the time. In fact, she didn't bring it up again until now, which makes her recent concerns about it catching me a bit off guard. Now, Eva is expressing that if we're going to commit to each other for the long haul, she's uncomfortable with having someone in our lives who I once had feelings for. She's concerned that my past crush on Lee could potentially complicate our future together, especially as we consider taking the big step of marriage. Eva also brought up an incident where I got involved in Lee's previous serious relationship. I had advised Lee to end things with her then boyfriend because, well, he wasn't treating her right and I wanted the best for my friend. While I believed I was doing the right thing at the time, Eva didn't approve of my interference. She emphasized that, although she doesn't suspect that anything romantic has happened between Lee and me recently, she doesn't want to leave anything to chance. Eva pointed out that Lee has been expressing a strong desire to find someone to settle down with, which adds another layer of concern for her. In Eva's eyes, these factors combined make her uneasy about maintaining a close relationship with Lee as we plan our future together. Eva assured me that there's no rush to make a decision and emphasized that she wasn't issuing an ultimatum. She expressed a desire to avoid confrontation about the issue, but suggested that I take some time to digest her concerns before considering a proposal. While we weren't discussing getting engaged as an imminent event, it was also not something we envisioned happening too far down the road. As for discussing this matter with Lee or anyone else, I haven't done so yet. I'm still hopeful that we can find a way to resolve this without involving others. Bringing Lee into the conversation at this point seems counterproductive. It could potentially strain her relationship with Eva and create tension between Eva and me. For now, I'm focusing on understanding Eva's perspective and exploring possible solutions that could address her concerns without causing further complications. I'm finding myself caught in a tough spot with all of this. On one hand, Lee has been a significant and supportive friend throughout my life. She's been there for me through thick and thin, helping me break out of my shell during those awkward teenage years. Her influence on my life has been genuinely transformative, and I owe her a lot for that. But on the flip side, what I'm most grateful to Lee for is introducing me to Eva. That single act has led to nearly 6 years of a wonderful relationship with someone I deeply care about. The idea of cutting ties with Lee feels like dismissing a crucial part of our history and connection. However, on Eva's side of things, I'm struggling to fully grasp her perspective. While I can understand why she might be uneasy about my past crush on Lee, it feels like a stretch to make it an issue, now after it's been a non-event for so many years. Sure, I could entertain the idea that my past feelings might still be a concern, but it's hard to see it as a valid argument when it hasn't caused any issues in our relationship over the past 6 years. Navigating this situation is challenging, and I'm honestly not sure how to approach it or find a middle ground that satisfies both Eva's concerns and my own feelings about Lee. It's a delicate balance, and I'm still trying to figure out the best way to handle it. Update. Over the weekend, after taking some time to gather my thoughts, I felt it was important to sit down with Eva and address the issue head-on. I let her know that we needed to have a serious conversation about Lee and the concerns she had raised. Eva seemed hesitant at first, reiterating her desire to avoid confrontation or arguments. However, I felt it was crucial for us to discuss this openly and honestly. I reassured Eva that the intention wasn't to argue, but rather to communicate and understand each other's perspectives better. I began by emphasizing that Eva is the person I love and want to spend my life with. While Lee holds a significant place in my life as a friend who has been there for me through the years, she remains just that, a friend. I explained to Eva that cutting Lee out of my life without any inappropriate behavior from either of us would be an unreasonable request. I wanted her to understand that this was a boundary I wasn't willing to cross. I made it clear that this was my final stance on the matter, hoping it would help us move forward constructively. Additionally, I expressed my hope that we could continue to communicate openly about this issue and any others that might arise in the future. Understanding the root of Eva's concerns and finding a way to address them together would be crucial for our relationship's growth and stability. I emphasized my commitment to working through this together and finding a resolution that respects both of our feelings and boundaries. Eva wasn't thrilled with my stance, but she didn't shut down the conversation either. Instead, we ended up having a lengthy and meaningful discussion about everything. During our talk, Eva admitted a couple of things that shed more light on her concerns. Firstly, she acknowledged that Lee hadn't actually done anything to create issues between us. Eva even admitted that bringing up my 12-year-old crush on Lee might have been stretching it a bit. It wasn't really relevant to our current situation, and she might have been grasping at straws. However, Eva then revealed that a significant factor behind her unease was my involvement in Lee's breakup last year and how I handled the aftermath. While she agreed that Lee's ex wasn't a great guy and someone probably needed to encourage Lee to end the relationship, she wasn't comfortable with the way I took matters into my own hands. To give a bit more context, I had previously mentioned this incident in a comment on the original post. Essentially, I had decided on my own to intervene. I went over to Lee's place and convinced her that she deserved better, without consulting Eva about the approach or discussing it with her beforehand. Eva felt left out of the decision-making process, which made her uncomfortable. She wished I had included her in the discussion, or at least informed her about how I planned to handle the situation. This lack of communication and consideration for her feelings played a bigger role in her concerns than she initially let on. It became clear during our conversation that communication and mutual respect were key issues for Eva. While she understood and appreciated my intentions, she wanted to feel like an equal partner in our relationship, especially when it came to making significant decisions that could impact both of us and our friendships. Eva continued to share her feelings, revealing that she had developed a lingering suspicion about my relationship with Lee ever since the breakup incident. She pointed out that Lee had remained single since then, not really dating anyone, and had expressed a desire to settle down soon. Given that I was the closest guy to Lee, Eva confessed that these observations on their own weren't concrete evidence of anything inappropriate between Lee and me. However, she couldn't shake off the uneasy feeling that something might be going on beneath the surface. In response, I reassured Eva that I didn't believe Lee saw me as anything more than a friend. I emphasized that Lee had always been supportive of our relationship and had never given me any reason to doubt her intentions. I suggested that perhaps talking to Lee directly about Eva's concerns could help alleviate some of her fears and suspicions. We set that idea aside for the moment and shifted the conversation towards the trust issues that seemed to underlie Eva's request. I expressed my concern that her request implied a lack of trust in me, which was a significant issue in our relationship. Eva seemed unsure of how to respond to this, reiterating that she wasn't accusing me of doing anything wrong or having any ill intentions. She reiterated that her concerns were primarily about Lee and the potential for changed feelings on Lee's part. Eva emphasized that if her suspicions about Lee were correct and Lee did see me differently now, our close proximity could become a problem, regardless of whether anything actually happened between us. I agreed with her on this point in principle, but pointed out that it all rested on an essentially unproven if. We both acknowledged that trust and communication were vital moving forward. While Eva's concerns were based on her feelings and suspicions, we agreed that talking openly about them and addressing any underlying issues would be essential for rebuilding trust and strengthening our relationship. Towards the end of our conversation, I asked Eva about the status of her friendship with Lee, curious to know how our discussion had impacted it. From my perspective, I hadn't noticed any significant changes in their relationship. Eva admitted that while she didn't hold any animosity towards Lee due to the lack of concrete reasons, her suspicions had indeed caused a noticeable cooling off in their friendship. She described her interactions with Lee lately as polite, but not much more than that. I reassured Eva that I wasn't expecting her to force a friendship with Lee if she wasn't comfortable. However, I emphasized once more that talking openly with Lee might help clear up some of her concerns and perhaps even strengthen their friendship again over time. At various points during our conversation, I brought up the idea of couples therapy. Eva was initially hesitant, perhaps seeing it as a sign that our relationship was in trouble. However, I insisted that it wasn't about doubting our love or commitment to each other. Instead, I viewed it as an opportunity to seek qualified counseling to help us navigate this challenging situation and emerge stronger as a couple. After some discussion, Eva warmed up to the idea, recognizing the potential benefits of having a neutral third party help us communicate and work through our issues. We've begun looking into couples therapy options and plan to make it a priority once we find a suitable therapist. We both agreed that taking proactive steps to address our concerns and improve our communication skills would be beneficial for our relationship in the long run. By seeking professional guidance, we hope to find constructive ways to resolve our differences and strengthen our bond moving forward. By the end of our conversation, Eva had let go of the idea of requiring me to cut Lee out of my life, at least for now. While this was a relief, we both acknowledged that there were still unresolved issues and concerns that we needed to address. The fact that we were able to have an open and honest discussion about the situation was a step in the right direction, and we're both hopeful that counseling will provide us with the tools and guidance we need to navigate through this challenging time in our relationship. I'm grateful for the opportunity to have talked things out with Eva and for her willingness to reconsider her initial request. It's clear that we both care about each other deeply and want to find a way to move forward together. On a side note, I want to express my gratitude to everyone who offered advice and insights on my original post. Your perspectives and suggestions were genuinely helpful, and I felt it was important to provide an update, even if things are still a bit up in the air. I apologize if this update feels a bit scattered or incomplete. There's a lot to unpack, and I've tried to condense our conversation as best as I could. If anyone has specific questions or needs clarification on any points, I'll do my best to answer them.